Hello there and welcome back. In this video I thought I'd talk about my computer's tech spec. Now the reason why I thought now is a good time to create this video is that I got a personal message through YouTube asking me what is the technical specification of my personal computer. So I thought I'll spend this time just telling you about it. Now the first thing you've probably have noticed already is that I'm using Windows 10 as my base operating system. Now the reason why I'm using 10 and not like Linux or Apple is quite literally because this is a custom built PC and Macs are expensive, and even more expensive when you consider there's an option to actually custom make them as well, which you can. I've got a friend who's got a custom Mac, but it's just so expensive and I don't have a massive budget. I mean, when you hear about the hardware I've got, you think maybe you've got a bigger budget than you've made out. But these are parts I've bought over time. This is a PC I bought in parts, custom to what I wanted, with the idea of upgrading over a period of time, knowing I'm not always going to have the highest of the top end computer, but I'm going to be pretty close most of my time. Now the Windows 10 copy I have is actually the free version they gave you. I had Windows 7 beforehand, but they were doing this trial thing where you could download it almost pre-order it for free, and you basically acted like a beta tester for it. And it was just super buggy, and I had so many issues getting it working on my PC. But I ended up just persevering with it anyway. I did want to roll it back to Windows 7 again because sometimes it was just like, this is unnecessary, I didn't want this hassle. But a friend of mine upgraded to Windows 10 and then tried to roll it back and lost all of his programs and files, and I had another friend who did the same thing and the same thing happened to him. And I thought, I'm not going to risk this. I don't have the money to keep replacing programs like having Photoshop CS3. Now, it's not a high program, one of the more expensive ones, but I was a student. I didn't have the money to keep replacing programs that I already have working. So I just stuck with it, and eventually it did sort itself out. Now moving on from the operating system, the hardware, which actually is what differs my computer to almost any other PC now, because this is where it becomes a little bit more custom, is running a first generation Intel i5 quad core with the interlacing. It is literally that old. It's done me wonders, and it is about time I should probably upgrade to an i7, one of the new generation ones, but I haven't had any issues with my processor not being powerful enough to keep up with things. And if anything, it's the RAM that's starting to struggle a little bit. But yeah, it's 3.3 gigahertz, and I've not had any issues with it whatsoever. And if I need to, I can just overclock it. It is an overclocked one. It is one that I can overclock, but it's got the Be Quiet Phantom, I think. Anyway, it's got a high-end cooling fan system, and it's one of the best you can get without having to have liquid cooling, which I have thought about upgrading to, but that seems like a lot of hassle, and I actually am quite lazy in nature. Like, one of the perks of having a complete Be Quiet fan cooling system in the whole PC, the whole tower, even the power supply unit, is that it's silent. There is no noise whatsoever. In fact, the loudest part of my PC are the hard drives, which you can literally hear like the little arm moving across. It's amazing. It's such a quiet PC. Now moving on from the processor, I've got two 4GB Asus DDR3 1555 MHz RAM. They're also as old as the processor as well, and they're just starting to not keep up, and I have to think about upgrading it soon, because actually turns out 8GB is not enough, but it used to be loads and it was fantastic for gaming, any editing ideas. Bear in mind I went from a 4GB laptop up to this PC. But I think the next step for me is to go up to like 16 gigabytes or more, maybe 32 if I really want to push it. Now, when you're talking about this is more for like if I'm doing any 3D work or if I want to do any gaming. As far as design work, as far as drawing, 8 gigabytes is okay. I mean, it starts to struggle with the higher pixel ratios in Photoshop, which is one of the reasons why I've moved into Clip Studio. But if I were to get more RAM, I shouldn't have as much issue, and if I upgrade the processor as well, it should be all okay. And that's actually all on a Asus Gaming Gigabyte motherboard. It's the small one, the micro one, which is a big regret. I wish I had the slightly larger one, because you've only got 4 SATA drives ports, and I don't like the idea of having to keep bridging them. Now, the hard drives, I've actually got a 50 gigabyte SSD. Now that was the first one I ever had. That was when SSD were the new thing, and that was expensive. That was the most expensive part at the time. It was insane, but it had my operating system on and it ran fine until it didn't run fine because it actually wasn't big enough. Then I upgraded a few years ago to a 260 gigabyte SSD, which now holds my main operating system and like Photoshop and a few other programs that I think would need the faster connection. But then I've also got a 500 gigabyte just standard hard drive just attached to it, and I've got a 5 terabyte external hard drive to hold basically all the graphics design work. But then I've also got another 1 terabyte external hard drive, which I bought ages and ages ago, just for any other general graphics design. I started using that one up and it's starting to get a bit full. So I decided to buy the 5 gigabyte one about 5 months ago. And it's also USB 3.0. It's just fantastic. It's so fast. My friend runs actually some of his games off a 3.0 USB terabyte external hard drive, and he says, yeah, don't have any issues. The loading screens are a little bit slower than the SSD, but not too bad overall. So I'm happy with what my setup so far. Now we're coming on to the most expensive part of my computer, my graphics card. Now I have been running up until a few months ago on a GeForce GTX 550 Ti. And it got to a point actually it was starting to struggle with some games actually. Just some of the games were starting to struggle. And I thought it's now probably a good time to upgrade. And I've been eyeing up the 10 series for a while now, like a 1050 or a 1060 or something. But I was really getting into my 3D designs at the time. So I thought I would want a 1050 Ti at least, just so I have that extra VRAM that's built into the graphics card, just to give me that little bit of edge to make it last a little bit longer, because every purchase I make it as a potential long-term investment rather than something short-term. I want it to be able to last me. Like even as far as my PC parts, they've lasted me well. So I looked online and they had just announced the new 1080 Ti series. So I pre-ordered it and I got one. I've got the GeForce GTX 1080 Ti and it is absolutely amazing. And I bought it. I told my friend who does all filming and he's got a couple of Titans and he just says, I regret getting my Titans. I wish I had waited and got the 1080s. And it's such an amazing graphics card. It turns my renders for these videos from being about half an hour to 2 hours sometimes, depending on how many audio and visual clips I have to do, and just cuts it down to just 10 minutes. It's absolutely amazing. And when I was doing my 3D renders, some of them were taking 16 hours to do, and that's with the graphics card, which was faster than the PC. And now with the new graphics card, it's happening in about an hour, maybe 2 hours. It's absolutely amazing. It just completely changed everything, and all my games run so smoothly. And now I know part of that is because my monitor isn't like super high tier. I've got one of the new Samsung 1080p LED curved screens. I mean, it's only 1080p, but its color ratios are fantastic. I really love how the screen pops out. And I'm really glad I bought that as well because it's a curved screen. However, I did notice one issue, is that I can't use a normal flat screen now without thinking everything looks a little bit curved or a bit bent or broken. But that's just a sacrifice I had to make in order to have a slightly curved screen, which I generally did not need at all, but it's great. And people walk into my room and this is obviously where I do most of my work, I do it in my bedroom. They look at my PC setup and they see my artwork and they go, oh, so are you a gamer or do you draw? Well, I was a gamer and I still game a little bit, but not so much now. But I still primarily draw and I use my computer for artwork and a lot of 3D stuff, which I haven't shown you guys yet, but that is obviously a plan in the future to start showing you some of my design process as I use Blender. And as far as my drawing tablet goes, I use a Wacom Comic Small, and that's literally to tie me over until I can afford to get myself a 13-inch Cintiq, which is going to be as expensive as my graphics card, which is going to be hilarious. But my keyboard actually is a Strike 7 modular keyboard. It's like 250 quid, or at least it was when I bought brand new. And it's completely unnecessary. It's massive, it's modular, and it's got touchscreen. Oh, I'm definitely debating whether to keep it or whether to actually just remove it altogether. And I got a standard just gaming mouse. I'm not entirely sure what the brand is. It's just a light up gaming mouse with like 2700 DPI with a button which you can change how sensitive the mouse is. But the newest addition is my Wacom tablet, and I'm absolutely loving it. Because beforehand I was using a G Pen, and I can't remember the actual brand name of it, and it just wasn't working properly with the new operating system. But the pen had also gone a bit funky. So I tried contacting them, asking them, can I like buy a new pen? Is there anything you could do about getting this working? Absolutely no reply, no feedback, no help. I tried several times, and I tried finding one on Amazon or eBay, and absolutely nothing. There was nowhere where you could buy these tablets. And then I did some research more, and they said, yeah, no, the company went bust, and they don't do that line of tablet. You can't buy the pen separately. Yeah, there's just no support whatsoever. If you want a brand with support, go for Wacom. So I invested and bought myself an 80 quid Wacom tablet just to get me going until I can afford to buy myself a Cintiq, which is 800 quid or 800 pounds. I just realised that's common English vernacular that I should probably translate for you guys who aren't in England. Anyway, I should probably talk a little bit about the picture I'm doing in the background. I thought it would keep it in theme, doing it techno. I love technology, I'm very tech savvy, I loved PCs, I learned to program, then I became an artist. Alongside learning how to program, I just realised I did it alongside, I was doing multiple things at once. So I thought it would be cool to draw my avatar surrounded by random pieces of technology. For example, a unbranded musical playing device, an unbranded laptop, and an unbranded tablet device. So well done, Eli. Well done for keeping it in theme with the topic of discussion for today. That was really bad English grammar. And this is what the final picture looks like. Now I hope you enjoyed this video, and of course if you'd like to comment with suggestions on requests you'd like me to do, comment below, and like this video if you've enjoyed it, and if you haven't then I'm sorry. And please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget I'm also on Instagram. See you later.